Hello everyone, welcome back to more Neverhood 1 Chronicles. We are still in the Hall of Records, and now we are getting ready to read about Arvin. And I'm going to make a new save here. And let us continue. Arvin. Arvin is a sleek and fast being who created thousands of beings from the first moment he was given a crown. Besides his crown, there is an aerodynamic fin off the back of his head because he is so fast. His style of creating is fast. Get in, create, get out. He does not keep account of the worlds he creates nor the beings he creates to inhabit them. Quarter made Arwen quiet, serious, lean, and efficient. Arwen has spoken only once to some of the beings he has created. Quarter wanted to make a being who would fill up the rest of creation with more worlds and planets and beings. Arwen does not even take the time to create beings who will be creators themselves. Arwen now has 7 worlds that his beings inhabit. Okay, I guess we're going to talk about those worlds. Nordu is a world consisting of a group of 7 planets. 7's really the magic number here in this game, isn't it? Each with a civilization of its own. The inhabitants of each planet have a distinct mythology with the common element of the 7 planets fighting amongst each other. But they never do in reality. This makes the various races of the 7 planets fear each other intensely, though there is no real need to do so. The 7 planets are Idsnak, inhabited by the skull monkeys. Okay, this is actually a reference which I wouldn't have known and wouldn't have known back then unless I had made these videos now. Or since I've made these videos now, but Skull Monkeys is the sequel to Neverhood. It's basically called, like Neverhood 2 Skull Monkeys. So that's a reference to what would become the sequel. Skull Monkeys look, and this, what they're going to describe here is going to be probably what you will see in that game. I have only played the first Neverhood, so. Skull Monkeys look like monkeys with skulls for heads. Skull monkeys spend the whole day chasing each other in a nervous, hyperactive way. While skull monkeys would love to scare the young of other civilizations, they cannot, for other worlds are not accessible to them. For this reason, transportation research is a primary concern of the smarter skull monkeys. Alpha Jaw, the leader of the kingdom of the skull monkeys, hoped to have a spaceship of some kind built to fly to planets, full of youth to scare. One day, while Alpha Jaw busied himself with detailed plans of a great ramp to launch a great rocket, his assistant, Harry Joe, climbed down the great fort and decided to rest at the watering hole. Harry Joe drank deeply from the pure waters and looked at himself in the still reflection. He poked his finger in his avicular foramen and wondered what it would be like to have flesh on his head. Okay. I am very ugly, thought Harry Joe. This was an odd thought, since most skull monkeys have no concern for appearances. For this reason, I will cast myself into the water and live no more, he said, then jumped. So what, he was upset because he didn't have skin on his skull anymore? His body made a loud splash, and he felt the cool water touch every part of his body. His hair grew deeply saturated with water, so he has hair. He's just a skull head, but he has hair. Until all of the air bubbles wriggled their way up to the surface. It does call him Harry Joe. Maybe just on his body. Harry Joe exhaled and sank even deeper, far deeper perhaps than any other skull monkey had ever gone before. Weightless, he refused to move or struggle. Dark water surrounded him, and he thought about his youth. Harry Joe remembered a particularly unpleasant day many years before when he was such a lad skull monkey, receiving his lessons from an elder named Lowjaw. Many are the hairs on our backs, said Lowjaw, and likewise are the number of skull monkeys in this world. Harry Joe looked up to the Lowjaw as a father figure. For weeks, Harry Joe followed every move Lowjaw made. If Lowjaw went into the forest to forage for nuts and grubs, so went Harry Joe. If Lowjaw tended to his garden, so did Harry Joe. One especially warm and beautiful day, Harry Joe was on his way to Lowjaw's cave when he saw a great crowd gathered around the entrance. Many skull monkeys were howling to show their mournful state. Lowjaw's wife was the gloomiest of all. She was like a brittle fallen leaf blown into a corner. Harry Joe pushed his way to the front of the crowd, demanding to see his mentor. Lowjaw gently swung by his neck, hung from a braided piece of cloth his 2 children had made. His children were the first to find him in this state. The peculiar thing that Harry Joe recalled was that he had shaved himself completely naked. Arnod, inhabited by the Rs observe other planets and civilizations, hoping one day to apply all that they have learned. There's another typo. All that they have learned to their own civilization. This is not likely, however, since they find comfort in research and are terrified of application. Ours are extremely advanced in the arts of the mind. Which they use to read other beings' minds. Every other generation in the R's lifetime produces an Omega R. Omega Rs have such superior mind control that they can use their minds to form physical doorways between worlds. This has been outlawed by Arvin, and only because Corder brought this to his attention. But the Omega Rs were not stopped until after they had moved a few yents. Skull monkeys and even Rs, too, are planets. Ba'ak, inhabited by half skull monkeys, who are half blue int, called blue int skull monkeys. These beings look just like white yents, since the mating of a skull monkey with a blue yent causes a loss of pigmentation in the offspring, resulting in a blue yent that appears to be white. There is no other visual effect on the offspring from the skull monkeys, though their behavior is more like that of a skull monkey than the community-building blue yents. Gurley, inhabited by the proto-skull monkeys, these pitiful beings have to bury themselves up to their necks every night in the rich Gurley soil to keep from dying of dehydration. They can only eat ha bread, which can only be made by grinding up the largest wecks and adding them to ha batter before it rises. Arvin corrected all of these limitations in the final design of skull monkeys. Gurley was a monthly orbit that floats so close to wicks that the proto-skull monkeys can harvest the plumpest wicks from the ha bread. Due to the proto-skull monkeys tied to the soil of Gurley every evening, colonizing wicks with proto-skull monkeys is not possible. Wicks inhabited by wicks. Wicks are fat, furry, and yellowish in color. Wicks reproduce asexually and often with which would create an overcrowding problem if they were not harvested each month by the proto-skull monkeys. Habsburg, inhabited by 1R and one skull monkey who became best friends. The R's name is Arheoston, and the skull monkey's name is Mazimost. Their first year on Habsburg was one of confused emotions because of the myth of the 7 planets fighting amongst each other. Mazimost and Arheoston fear each other, but they were lonely and longed for companionship also. Stan, behaving in perfect R fashion, wanted to study most and all of his habits. He spent a lot of time following the skull monkey's tracks to see where he went, examining his feces to see what he ate, and climbing up trees to see where he lived. They found that helping each other was their only chance of happiness and survival. While they were extremely productive extremely productive during the first 100 years of friendship, they now just sit in front of their houses swapping grossly exaggerated stories of their first year together. Take a sip of drink. Yanko, inhabited by the followers of Mai K. Mai K was said to live on Habsburg, though in reality he did not exist at all by any known records. Yankitites, beings of Yanko, find pleasure in making intricate artworks for Myokea. Perhaps the greatest works of art known to Quarter are made in Yanko. It is for this reason that no one has the heart to tell the Yankites that Myokea does not exist. The other 6 worlds that Arvin made, this next one. Placino is an enormous cloud of beings, each too small to be seen by the naked eye. Ours have projected their minds there. Little section for that place. Alpha Tick is the world of the Argos. Each successive generation is born bigger than the previous. As the Argos of each generation get into their senior years, you hear them making statements like, "These punks think they're so big," or "When I was your age, we had to stand on a chair to get the fondue pot down from the top kitchen cabinet." The houses of their ancestors are not usable for the newer generations. They just cannot fit through the front doors. Alpha Fana Lapa, or Lapa, is a world where the adults are ruled by their children. The adults are ruled by the children. The children send the parents on time-consuming, frivolous tasks that keep the parents from doing anything but what the children desire. One might think a society like this would collapse in anarchy, but to satisfy each whim of their children, the parents constantly develop new technologies. For instance, when a child looking up at the evening sky said, "I want to see that white dot, what that white dot is up there." And through a fit, his parents worked night and day till they invented a telescope. When other children saw it, they wanted one, so telescope factories were built. In similar ways, advances are made throughout Alpha Flamelapa. Alpha families have from 1 to 3 children, rarely more. One child, being childish, may say yes when she is asked if she wants a baby brother or sister. She does not have the ability to realize that she will have to share command of the parents with her sibling, since the parent must be obedient to all their children. That child will not be fooled again if she is asked a second time after the birth of her sibling. Later, when the new baby is old enough to answer, the parents may be able to ask him while the other sister is not around, and if she was not already warned, the boy of the danger of a third sibling, if he wants a baby brother. If a third child is born into the family, the older two will rarely ever let the parent out of their sight. This prevents the parent from getting the chance to ask the youngest if he or she wants a baby sister or brother. I see. As a favor to Homan, Arvin made the world Flinby for the white Yents. Most of the white Yents were taken by Arvin, so the blue Yents could live in peace once again. The white Yents depended on the hard-working, resourceful blue Yents for survival, since the white Yents are shiftless, no-good bums. To survive being in a world with no blue Yents, the smarter white Yents, called Rogling, connect the not-so-smart white Yents, called Habling, into converting into blue Yents. There are some tales of the Rogling conning the Habling into being blue Yents. One night, Papto, tired of wandering into the woods of Flimby, saw the light from a window of a tree cutter's cottage. Papto did not have his own cottage because he was too lazy to build one. He thought to go to the cottage to see if the Yents inside would let him stay, so he went to the door and knocked. The tree cutter's wife opened the door and said, "Shoo, I don't let anyone in while my husband is not in the house. Go away already," and she slammed the door in his face. Papto was hungry too, and he had smelled the dinner cooking in the cottage while the door was open. He looked around for something to eat and saw a discarded Gluttoburger box on the roof of the cottage. He hoped there might be a Gluttoburger still in the box. But if not, even licking the Gluttoburger sauce from the bottom of the box would be delicious. After quietly making his way onto the roof, Papto found a hole through which he could spy on the wife of the tree cutter. Obviously, the tree cutter was too lazy to fix the hole. When he peeked through the hole, Papto saw a beautiful table set out with a savory junk roast, clouty fish, and wine. The tree cutter's wife and the county tree censor were seated at the table ready to dine. Now Papto heard the tree cutter lumbering home just then, and so did Miss Tree Cutter. The tree cutter was a nicest guy as you'd want to meet, but his one quirk was that the mere sight of a county tree censor put him into a fit of rage, and that was why the censor was paying a neighborly visit to the wife, because he knew that the tree cutter was outie, and the good woman would therefore fix up the best victuals she had. As Papto watched through the hole, she threw everything on the table into cupboards and drawers and hid the censer in a trunk she used as a coffee table. "What are you doing on my roof?" the tree cutter asked Papto. "You'd better come in and eat dinner with me and stay in the spare room." Papto brought the Gluttoburger box in with him, but kept it out of sight. The wife acted very glad to see them both and set the table and gave them each a big bowl of tory wheat, a gravy, tasteless paste. Gross. Papto's mouth watered thinking about the junk roast, clouty fish, and the other delicacies he had seen. He brought his Gluttoburger box up to his ear and opened and closed it a few times. "What have you got there?" asked the tree cutter. "Oh, that's my Glutto spirit guide," answered Papto. "He says, don't eat this tory wheat. Eat the junk roast, clouty fish, and other things. He had a Glutto spirit hide in the cupboards just now." "Super," explained the tree cutter. who jumped up. And found all the wonderful food which his wife had been hidden there, but which he thought the glutter spirit had brought forth. The wife of the tree cutter dared not say a word, but put all the food on the table. Now Papto put his box up to his ear again and opened and closed it. "What's he say now?" asked the tree cutter. "He says, don't forget the wine behind you in that drawer." So Papto and the tree cutter enjoyed the wine also. The tree cutter wanted to see the Guffalo spirit this guide used to provide these wonderful things. "Can the guide conjure the glutto spirit here for us to see?" asked the tree cutter. "I wouldn't be troubled about looking at him. Now that we finished off that wine, I'm kind of loopy." "But of course," said Papto, "this guide does whatever I tell it to do, don't you?" Here he nodded at the Glutto Burger box in his hand. He says, "Yes, but the Glutto spirit is very ugly. We might puke if we were to look upon it so soon after eating." "So who's afraid of a little barf? What will he look like?" "Well, you'll see. You see, he'll look just like a county tree sensor." What the hell is a county tree sensor? I have to Google this too. I think I have to. County tree sensor. Tree maintenance. So, I mean, it's essentially a true thing. Okay. Just confirming. Gah, that is ugly. I must tell you. I go into fits of rage when I see a county tree sensor. But I'll be okay knowing it's really a Glutto spirit. So Papto opened the box and whispered into it. Then he put it up to his ear. "Very well," said Papto. "He's in the trunk you use as a coffee table. We may go look at it now, but don't let it out of the trunk." "Help me hold the lid," said the lumberjack, and they all went over to the trunk where the wife had hidden the county tree sensor. They opened the lid and peeked in. The tree cutter slammed the lid closed. "Wow, he's ugly. Yuck." After that, they agreed they needed another drink. They opened another drawer and found another bottle of wine. Much later, the tree cutter said, "You must tell me the Glutto spirit guide in the box. Sell it to me. Ask as much as you want. I'll pay anything." "No, I could never do that," said Papto. "Just imagine what I can use him for." "Oh, I do so want that." "Is this thing like, does he look like the thing from Basket Case, that weird horror movie in the 80s? It's like a dude's like twin brother, your Siamese twin brother that like he severed from his body and put into a basket." It's a pretty creepy movie if you've never seen it. Glutto spirit guide so much. "Oh, please, 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 please. Oh, please, oh, please, oh, please, oh, please, oh, please," cried the cutter tree, and he kept on begging. "Well," said Papto at last, "if you promise that you and your wife will pretend to be blue yents for the next 3 years for me, then I will give you this Glutto Burger box." "It's a deal," said the tree cutter, "but you must take that trunk with that Glutto spirit that looks like a county tree sensor." "Away with you. It gives me the creeps." When Papto left in the morning, he took the trunk. On his way on the other side of the woods was a very deep river. The water rushed by under the bridge he was crossing, and the river thundered in the quiet quiet of the forest. "Phew," said Papto. "I'm tired. This trunk feels like it's full of my brother's weights. I think I may as well throw it in the river, and if it floats home to me, great. If not, no big deal." Then he lifted one end of the trunk just a little. "No," cried the censor from within the trunk. "Let me out first." "Ah," screamed Papto, pretending to be frightened. "The Glottal spirit is still in there. I'd better throw him fast so he'll drown." "No, no, no," explained the censor. "I'll be a blue yent for you for 3 years if you let me out." "I could do that," said the Papto, but for the next 3 years he did not lift a finger. Okay. Not much is known about El Bito, except that it is a twin of Film, or Flimby, and that it lies on the far side of the huge Gulf of Yellow. Plasma. Space currents momentarily blow the yellow plasma away, revealing albedo to the patient observer. SUMP is a world consisting of a group of hollow planets that exist within each other, including Outer June, inhabited by Wix, about 1 million times as many as Wix itself, the size of it, I guess. Because there are no proto-skull monkeys to harvest them every month, about 1/2 of the population is crushed to death by their collective weight. Meso-Albornun, inhabited by Albers. Albers suspect that there is a world above their outer June floor sky because of the occasional Wix carcass oozing through a crack or hole, but this is an unproved theory to them. Some arbors have drilled their way through the Menzo Arborum to find Inner Arborum. These travelers, however, never returned to the surface to tell what they found. This was prevented most arbors from attempting the journey, but a few hundred have. Arbors fall into 3 castes. The first is the intellectual, inquisitive caste called the Frankenites, and the second is the warring Abers called the Dazatites, and the third is the religious caste called the Ease. Frankentites spend their time in pursuit of knowledge about the other worlds of Sump, Outer June, and Inner Ambernon. Frankentites are not respected by either the Dazatites or the Ease. The Ease accuse the Frankentites of messing with their religious mythologies. The Dazatites think the Frankentites are a bunch of sissies. The Frankentites developed the theory of a world above their outer June floor sky because of the occasional Wix carcass oozing down through a crack or hole. The Abers have no way of reaching the floor sky, but a drop or two of the disgusting, rotting flesh of the Wix from outer June sometimes trickles down. The Frankentites have developed a science out of the study of stuff that falls from the sky. They have formed theories of what the world above must be like, theories of a world within theirs called the Cranculus Inner Arborum conjecture, after the Frankite named Cranculus, who is said to be the first Aber to say, "I wonder if there's a world within our world." Frankites have led expeditions into caves, crevices, and holes in the ground. Most expeditions run into dead ends. The ones that do not have never come back to report what they found. The E's say this just confirms what they have known all along, that Inner Arborum houses a door to the other side. Although a few Frankentites say there are no doors, most agree that there may be something like a door somewhere in the universe. The Dazatites consider the Frankentites' research into doors their only useful function in society. The E's spend their time in pursuit of the knowledge of mythologies. Some E's follow father, some E's follow quarter, some E's follow Arvin, some follow father and quarter, some follow quarter and Arvin, some follow father and Arvin, some E's follow all three together, father, quarter, and Arvin. Most Dazites want nothing to do with a door to the other side. They would be very interested, though, if someone found a door to another world that they could conquer. Aberwabi is the notable high priestess of the E's. Cap'n Daz, chief warrior of the Dazites, is plotting to assassinate him due to Aberwabi's doctrine of peace, which threatens the Dazite warrior lifestyle. Inner Arbnum, which is Arbor-Nun, which is said to house a door to the other side. All of the Arbor cultures have a mythology regarding the door and a special name that identifies that mythology. Here are some of the more popular mythologies. Lippocarterthurs. The door is all around us. This is the mythology of the doors amongst a small group of Frankentites called the Ricks. They believe that the door is just a natural consequence of the evolution of all living things. They are fond of going out to the Ubendi fortress and hugging the Ubendi trees, so they're tree huggers. Ricks desire to become one with nature, then they believe they will be able to see the way of the door. Until you become one with nature, they say, you cannot hope to see as nature sees. And according to the Ricks, nature sees all. Winthrop, Ballyhoo, we have already gone through the door. This is one of the many mythologies found amongst groups within the E's. This group within the E's calls itself the Marfies. They believe wholeheartedly that they're... did I read this? I did. Yep. Okay. All right, guys, we're going to stop this video here. My throat's pretty raw right now. I probably do need to stop recording. Probably just going to take a little bit of a drink break, and then I'm going to come back to this. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. We're getting, reasonably close, I would think, maybe. We're definitely more than halfway through. Not the game, but the this haul here of information that we've been trying to read, the Hall of Records. So thank you. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next part. Bye.